Full house, thank you. With the full house, I might do a little change up. The first thing I want to do is just thank everybody for coming. I am Celeste Carey. I am the chair of the Racial Equity Subcommittee. My voice is hoarse and it may give out a little bit because I'm in recovery from COVID, and hoarseness and all that other stuff is part of my satellite of symptoms, as they say. But I am recovering. So I'm gonna try to push this voice as long as it can. The second thing I wanna let everybody know is we have returned to the original time of this meeting. So it's from 6 to 7:30 p.m. I know that may have caught a lot of people off guard, but there were some concerns because people had old literature, new literature that had the times, and I tried to accommodate different schedules, including my own. I used to have a finance committee meeting at this time, but we're back to the original time. And for the foreseeable future, that's the way it'll remain. So thank you and apologies for anyone whose plans went awry. The next thing I want to do is ask you to take a look at the agenda, because we have a lot of people here and because of some of the events that have transpired here in Portland. I kind of want to get a feel for why people are here and try to adjust the venue accordingly. If you look at the agenda, you'll see that I'm continuing on working on the whole process of what STOPS data, is about, the collection, ways to properly change it or address things or modify, concerns. And focus on that. However, I did have a time set aside for two things. And if you notice, one of those is how should the Portland Committee on Community Engaged Policing respond to the inflammatory slides in that PPP training venue. Now, because this is the Racial Equity Subcommittee, and because we do work with the police to build bridges, and because this is the Racial Equity Subcommittee that addresses racialized concerns and conflicts, I do want to be sensitive to why people are here. And I'm sorry, yes, thank you, Claudia. Yes, it should say January agenda. I want to be sensitive to why people are here and kind of take a straw poll and find out how many people want to discuss the issue of the slides, because I did have a process I did want to use for that. And I can switch over the agenda and even if necessary, schedule another meeting so that we can make sure we can address that if that is why the bulk of people are here. So yes, Judith.
I was just going to let people know that there is at the bottom of their screen, there should be a button that says reactions.
Yes.
And if
go right ahead.
You'd like people to give a thumbs up, if that's why they're here, you'll be able to see. Yeah, Rochelle is saying in the chat, she would like to see that discussed first.
Okay, well, I do want to take a post. So if people are interested in not only discussing the slide first, well, I guess discussing the slide, but discussing it first, can you just give me like a thumbs up or something so we can get a quick visual? That's faster than trying to read everybody's chats. And so, okay. And that includes, not only attendees and participants, but members too. I really want to know, and partners too, what are your feelings on this so we can be responsive. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up, and I'm going to assume that is number one, to discuss the slides, and then number two, to discuss it first. Is that correct? Pretty much head nods.
That's what it's looking
Thumbs
like
up?
to me, Celeste.
Okay, okay, perfect. So we're gonna do a rearrangement. Now, the one thing that I can drop, because I'm trying to get more training literature on it, is we can put down at the bottom the process that we're looking at for the stops data. And then we can rearrange the agenda to be this way, the following. We're going to talk about the inflammatory slides first. And then we're going to talk about responding to the PPP directives on traffic stops. And I'll explain a little bit more about that when we get to it. And then we most definitely have to leave time to make sure we take care of old and new business and do the agenda items. So we will move stops data to last, and we may have another meeting maybe within 2 weeks to pick up where we left off, if so that's what we're going to do today. And then the next thing I want to ask people, in addition to us discussing how we want to respond, if we want to respond, what we're going to say when we respond, is how many people have access to the slide and the PowerPoint presentation. Do most people have access? Have most people had a chance to even see the presentation? Okay. Thumbs up if you have. And then let's see, do we have a slew of others? Is there a thumbs down? Where's thumbs? Okay, thumbs down if you haven't seen it, because we can make it available. Okay, I'm not seeing much of that. And let me see anything in the chat. Slide, yes. Presentation, no. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. What I would like to do is I'm going to have Claudia send out or post the link, and we can do that on the Racial Equity Subcommittee page, and the link for the entire PowerPoint presentation. Okay, and then what I would like to do is, oh, it's on the city website. Thank you, Heidi. And then what I would like to do is have people take time to watch the entire presentation and make notes that include your comments, your concerns, your upset, and be specific, please, because we want to take this chance. This is a perfect learning opportunity, and this is a perfect opportunity to galvanize the community, to let the police know that we really mean it when we say we want to build bridges. But building bridges doesn't mean that we just sit there and have a nice, polite conversation. This is a chance to be held accountable and to see what you're doing to prevent this kind of dynamic in the future, and to also build the communication network wherein we will be free. We will have a venue to have an honest conversation. So I really, like I said, if as we get through, we find that this will warrant a meeting, a further meeting, we can have another meeting. I'm going to try to arrange it with Claudia in the next 2 weeks. We don't have to wait to February, a regular February meeting, to have that. How does everyone feel about that? Can you hit me with thumbs up? Even if I don't get a lot, I still want to hear from people. So how do you feel about, number one, watching the presentation, giving feedback to bring to a next meeting, and then a meeting in 2 weeks? Does that work for people? Okay, I don't see okay, there we go, some more fingers. Okay, great. Okay, so having done all that, can you give me just a real brief introduction of who you are? It's 6:11 and we got almost 30 people. So what I would like is for my PCCEP colleagues to say hello, who they are, and then our partners. And then after that, we're going to open up the floor to our community members to ask questions or make comments about the slides. And I'm going to ask everybody to be brief, but also know that you can, number one, put something in the chat, and number two, email us if you don't get a chance to make a comment or your thoughts aren't fully with you at the time. So let me start with my colleague who is next to me, and that's Gloria. If you'll introduce yourself, please.
Right.
And thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Gloria Canton. My pronouns are she and her. I am the chairperson for the Youth Subcommittee. It's good to see you all here. I'll pass it off. Is that what I'm supposed to do?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Right, that's okay. I'll pass it off to Zainab.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Zainab Folk. My pronouns are she and her. I've been a PCCEP member since November of 2020. Thank you.
And would you pass it on to somebody too, please, Zainab?
Is it just our PCCEP members or just anyone on the screen?
PCCEP members first.
Okay.
Thanks.
Amy, thank you.
Amy
Anderson, sorry, thank you.
Yeah, Amy Anderson here, chair of the Behavioral Health Subcommittee. And I'm going to pass it off to Jared.
I'm not actually on the PCCEP. My name is Jared Hager. I'm with the U.S. Department of Justice, and I'm here in my role as the monitor of a settlement agreement between the United States and the city of Portland in relation to police reform. Jalessa, are there other members on, or you want me to pass it to the staff? Judith?
Let's see. I'm looking for other members. I guess at this point, we would pass it to our staff, please. So that would be Claudia and Judith.
Hey, everybody. My name is Judith Mowry. I'm going to be serving as the interim project manager since Theo Lutta has moved on to a new job, and we will be hiring for that position. Happy to be here to support you all. Claudia?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the PCCEP Racial Equity Subcommittee. My name is Claudia Claudio. I'm the project assistant for PCCEP. Should I call on someone?
Yes, please. That would move us now to our partners, such as Heidi,
yes,
Sarah,
exactly what I was going
Mary Claire.
All right, Heidi, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Heidi Brown. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm with the city attorney's office and glad to be here tonight. I'll pass it to Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Ames, also with the city attorney's office, also she, her pronouns, and I, among my duties with the city attorney's office are to support PCCEP. And I will pass it to Mary Claire Buckley.
Good evening, folks. I'm Mary Claire Buckley, she, her, and I am the Inspector General at the Portland Police Bureau, and are here in my role as DOJ compliance for the Bureau. And I will pass it to, we got other partners here. I'm sorry, I can't.
Let's see
the whole group.
I believe we've hit the
City attorneys.
Dennis is here, Rosenbaum.
Oh, yes, thank you, Dennis.
Pass it on to Dennis.
Hi, Dennis Rosenbaum, he, him pronouns. I'm here as the compliance officer with the in community relations with the settlement agreement. So thank you, just here to observe and listen.
Okay, well, if that are all of our partners, thank you all for attending. And for my community members, these are the folks who can help answer questions for you. And so I guess at this point, let's see. Yep, I got everybody. What I want to do now is just ask you to queue yourself up, and we can start having people share their comments, concerns, and questions about the slide. We'll try to answer them. Anything that we put on a parking lot, the intention will be if it doesn't require a lot of advanced preparation, it can be addressed in the following meeting, which we may be scheduling in 2 weeks. If it's something that requires a lot of advanced preparation, what we will do is try to adjust it in the February meeting. And so to kind of queue yourself up, just raise your hand and we can start with questions and comments about the slide. Give everybody a chance to get to their technology. Okay, I don't see any hands up yet. Do you, Judith?
I'm sorry, I do not.
Okay, well, since there's no hands up, this is what I want to ask as the first question. And this is from the community members. Do you want PCCEP to have a response that is both channeled from you to the police and a response from PCCEP to hold the police bureau accountable for not only the slide, but the training at large? And if there's no community members, okay, I'm getting, okay, yeah, Zanab, I'll do that. I was just getting ready to ask, please raise your hand, but I'll also ask that here.
Celeste, if you say it again, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, thanks. The first question is, do you want PCCEP to make a response to Portland Police Bureau regarding the training slide and the PowerPoint at large? And do you want us also to share your comments and concerns? Okay, I see Barb, but also raise your hand and queue yourself up because I do want to hear your comments. One of the reasons we have this forum is to get the community's input. The reason I introduced my partners so that you can know these are people who may not be speaking, because we're here to facilitate your input getting to the powers that be. So that's the first thing. Do you want PCCEP to make a response? Okay, I see one. Okay, Kat, is your hand up to agree? Okay, right, okay. Portland Cop Watch, thank you. Okay, so now, okay, I'm seeing hands come up, okay. Okay, thank you, all righty. So we will make a response. Now, part of what we're gonna do tonight then is shape that response. So I need your input, your comments, your thoughts, your concerns, your fears, and this is a safe place to speak. This is a place where we really need to hear exactly what you think. And there was a hand up. Let me get to the hand up. Where did you go? Barb, was that you that had your hand up?
Yeah, it was, because I can always kick something off if nobody else has anything to say.
Okay, well, let's start.
I mean, I'm not even gonna discuss how atrocious it was. Apparently that's the word of the week. But I'd just like to see what the timeline is for the investigation and how many different groups are being called on to investigate, in the timeline, basically.
Okay, when you say what is the timeline, can you expand on that a little bit more?
I'm sorry, I meant the timeline for the investigation. I mean, obviously this isn't going to just like float away like some people might want it to, right? And I don't know how many different investigations they're talking about doing. Maybe one, maybe a couple, I don't know. think it seems like a good question, though.
I see this question in here. I'm not ignoring you, Barb. Let me try to answer this question because this is going to be quicker. From Portland Car Wash, it says, are we really going to go through 120? Not tonight. No, tonight we are making available the PowerPoint presentation so that you can watch it and then you can make your comments. There are people who haven't seen it yet or haven't seen it in its entirety. So I don't feel comfortable trying to go through all of this tonight. But I feel like people can have a more informed commentary if they've got access to it and they can see it. So that was the plan. Okay.
Celeste,
yes.
You've got Barbara, Gloria, and Patrick in the queue.
Okay, thank you. To answer that question about the timeline, we put that in our response to them, Barb. So I have no idea what the investigation is going to look like, but one of the things we want, if I'm hearing you correctly, is that we want to ask, what's the timeline for this investigation? Who are the partners and other investigators or involved parties?
We'll get a transcript.
Okay, good. Okay, let's go to Barb here from
Barbara from Crop Watch.
Barbara, I'm sorry, Barbara.
That's all right.
From Crop Watch. Hi, Barbara. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. I have concern that it's not just this particular set of slides, but that kind of like, since they obviously thought they could get away with it, that it's also both formally and informally exists in other parts of their training.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that would be investigated as well.
Okay, let me make sure I'm understanding you correctly. So you're saying, does this occur in other training, period, across the board? Okay. Okay, and then
Gloria, then Patrick.
Gloria?
Celeste, my questions, really I have two. So I'm gonna throw both of them out there. Number one, I wanna know, have they found out who was responsible for the training slides? Have they found out who was responsible for the training slides? And then the next one was, which training team was this used for? Was it used for RO? I'm not getting the acronyms right, but the new team that they just brought about, or was it for the whole police department for their training? Who was it directed towards?
Okay, who was the intended audience?
Recipient.
Celeste, if there are people who can answer those questions currently, do you want that, or are you going to wait and get all the questions at once?
You know, if there are people who can answer this, please just jump and let Judith know in the chat, because that can help expedite. And I would like to, as much as possible, try to alleviate concerns tonight. I don't want to leave some of these questions hanging. And that's one reason why I said I can be flexible with this meeting. If it turns into a situation where we can best use the venue to discuss this, that's what we'll do. That's what we'll do.
You've got Patrick, Barb, and Heidi. I don't know, Heidi, if you were going to answer any of these questions. If so, I would recommend going ahead and doing some of that before we get the other two.
Patrick, if you don't mind, let me do Heidi and then you. Is that okay? All righty, thank you. So Heidi, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Celeste. So the timeline for the investigation, the settlement agreement says that pretty much all investigations should be done within 180 days. So the Bureau is looking to stay within that timeline, as they always do. I'm not sure what you mean by how many investigations, but the situation is being investigated, and because of ensuring that we respect that we respect the due process rights of the employees involved in this. I can't get into any of the details of the investigation. And so I apologize for that, but I do want to be sure that if there's misconduct, then we determine that somebody, who did what, we need to be able to hold people accountable. And that does require that we follow their due process rights. I think you asked who are the partners and the investigators. So this is being investigated by Internal Affairs. The process that's set up is that the independent police review also, there's a triple review that happens when a case goes through. So it gets investigated, it goes to the manager of the group or groups of people that were alleged to engage in misconduct. That RU manager then makes their recommended findings, and then it goes to a review by IA, the IA commander, the director or deputy director of the independent police review, and then the assistant chief over that group where the involved member is. And from there, they make a determination, and then it, for most cases, it then goes to the police review board, and then it goes up to the chief's office, the deputy, and then to the chief. So just as far as who are the partners, those would be the people involved and who would be part of that investigation.
Heidi, there's a question in the chat saying that they thought the investigation started in September. Is that, when did the investigation begin?
I don't know the exact date. I know that the slide came to light at the end of November, at the end of September, and it was reported right away to Internal Affairs. So I would assume, right around the end of September, it was opened. So that would start the 180-day timeline.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then the other questions about, do we know who was responsible for the training slide and which groups, or who was a recipient of the training? That's part of what we're looking into in the investigation. So I can't get into those details at this time. There was also a question about, does this type of attitude occur in other trainings? I certainly hope not. And if we find it, then we'll investigate it, or PPB will, or IPR will. Certainly, part of what we're looking into is how did this training occur and where did it occur and who knew about it. So that's part of the investigation, again, that I cannot get into at this time. I hope I tried to write down the questions. I hope that answers most of them. If there's other ones that I can't answer, I'm more than happy to try to answer those. Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi. Those were on my list, so as not to try to jump in on you.
Oh, no worries. I was just going to say thank you, Heidi, and then turn the floor over to Patrick.
Hi, Patrick Nolan, member of the Mental Health Alliance and Portland Peace Team, and former member of PCCEP. I had a few questions and thoughts, and I was hoping somebody was going to write these down.
I'm doing it.
Okay, great. My first thought is, as somebody who's regularly engages in protests, some of their slides are very misleading as far as just those, just on the face value of those slides. I found that really embarrassing, because if they feel that bottle rockets launched at them is a lethal thing, they really don't need to be engaged in that kind of activity, and they should avoid protests in general. Secondly, I'm sorry, I'm frustrated and kind of anxious right now. The slide that mentions the LA riots is insulting to our African-American brothers and sisters who it was not a possible or potential or it was racist activity, and the LAPD recognizes that now, and for the Portland police to kind of slyly, backhandedly get away with casting doubt on that is just insulting. Thirdly, the last slide is horrible, and there's just no way that that should have ever made it, you know, whether it be the officer that created it, the sergeant that looked at it afterwards, the captain, the lieutenant, the chief. Somebody should have said, hey, that can't be in there. And lastly, this was hidden. I went to the mediation that the Department of Justice was kind enough to allow with Judge Beckerman, and everybody was like, oh no, that, you know, sorry, yeah, we're doing fine, nothing's wrong. And the thing is just a second, Heidi.
But just we're not supposed to, the mediation was supposed to be confidential. I just want to raise that with me, and I just want to be respectful of that, not to try to, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I apologize, but I just want to.
I'm sorry, I didn't sign anything, and so I'm not aware of that. But what I do know is that somebody needs to be accountable in the mayor's office, in the city attorney's office, in the chief of police office. Somebody needs to be accountable here. It can't just be, oh, well, you know, it kind of happened and we're sorry about that again, because this has been going on for 10 years. I've been engaged in this in 8, and I'm considered a newbie. It's just insulting that we're still here doing this and still finding out things that are like, oh, wow, how did that happen? I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you very much, Patrick, for your words. You know, the only thing I can tell you as to, you know, here this is still happening now. You know, in the saying, the price of freedom is vigilance. You know, this is vigilance.
Yeah.
It's not going to go away. If it was going to go away, well, I imagine the Klan would be gone now, but it hasn't.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And you know, I say this to say, please don't get tired. You know, please, you know, we have to be vigilant, knowing that it's only by letting our adversaries, I'll call them, know that we're looking, we're paying attention. Can we kind of hold them accountable and change the hearts and minds that we need to? Because left alone to their own devices, they're going to do this, and they're going to continue to do this, because for them, this is successful. But for us, it's kind of like it's work, you know, and it's unfortunate work, but it's some of the best work we can do. But I thank you. I thank you for, you know, sharing your thoughts and your concerns. Before I call on anybody else, I see your hand up. Jared, was it to answer any questions, or was it to ask some questions?
I did just want to respond to Patrick's point.
Yes, please do.
Without disclosing any of the confidentiality of the mediation, the Department of Justice made this known in a letter we sent to the city, which I think has found its way into the papers. But one of the second requests is we have asked the city to provide an accounting or the circumstances surrounding this document and others being withheld from the Department of Justice during that mediation, you know, or before the mediation. Is, you know, as relevant to the issues that were being discussed in the mediation. And so, you know, just from the department's perspective, I want to, you know, thank Patrick for his comment about that. And, you know, we have the same question, but we've already asked it to the city, and we've given them time to respond, and we'll get that response in due course and decide as a department what next steps we ought to take based on the city's response. So I just wanted to let that be known, and thank Patrick for the comment.
All right, thank you very much. And so now I'm going to move in the order I see them here. So apologies if I'm in the wrong order, but I'm going to Portland Cop Watch here that has a hand up.
I think it was Zainab, then Cop Watch, and then Rochelle, but.
Okay, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I see Zainab's hand. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Zainab, I didn't mean to go over you. Yes, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you. And I want to say thank you for everyone who spoke so far. But Patrick, it's really great to meet you and knowing that we're also once part of PCCEP. So you also understand the history, most of the history as well. The question I have, and it's really going to what you were speaking about. So thank you again. While there were no names indicated in the online when the mayor posted it on the website, as well as in any articles, when the information was released to the public, and as Patrick said, there was some hidden information, I would say even from PCCEP members, as we have held monthly meetings, sometimes more than one time in a month. When did the city attorney's office learn about the training PowerPoint?
Zainab, it's my understanding that we learned about it, our office learned about it in the end of September.
Okay, thank you. And then, we can only pay attention to information that is disclosed. That's really building trust. And so I know that at the end of September, October, November, December, and then even this month, this is January, New Year, we have received COCO reports about training, as training is part of the settlement agreement. And I would ask this to Dennis Rosenbaum if he can give us an understanding of where we are when it comes to if the city has been in compliance with training. And if that's the case, whatever the case it may be, what information have you received, Dennis, from the city attorney? We might not need to get it, but have you received information from the city attorney's office, from the Portland Police Bureau? I see Mary Claire Buckley is on here. And so I would ask the same to you, Mary Claire. When did you learn about these PowerPoint slides? And again, it's not, no one's revealing anyone's name, hasn't revealed anyone's name since then. Why did it take so long for the information to be disclosed to the public?
Zainab, this is Dennis. I will respond to you. We found out about this the night before we released our draft report this week. So we found out about it when you did. So that's not really covered in our current third quarter draft report. Although if it happened in late September, we might mention it in the revised draft before it's published at the end of the month in the next 30 days. And we'll be like DOJ looking into this further down the road. The training, we do evaluate training that did occur in the third quarter. And we'll talk about that, by the way, on the 25th, just a couple of days from now at the town hall, at the PCCEP town hall. So there are some pluses and minuses there, but that was not part of it.
Sorry, before you say that, Dennis, I want to correct you on the dates. The town hall for the body-worn camera is the 23rd. The 25th is a town hall about the COCO report. Is that correct?
I'm so sorry. Yeah. I
just want to make sure everyone is understanding that the 23rd is about the body-worn camera. The 25th is about the COCO report. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I noticed that COCO report is in the time frame. And when, how about this? The city learned, the investigation started in September, and that report goes into the end of September 30th, 2021. And so, Mary Claire, thank you.
And we didn't find out about that until January 17th or 18th, somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I've got 3 more people in my queue.
I'm sorry, Celeste. I actually asked for Mary Claire, someone from the city, to answer the same question.
That was exactly where I was going, Zainab. So, we're right on the same page. I was going to ask for the people in the queue to wait, please, because I was hoping Mary Claire could answer your question.
Zainab, do you mind if I respond rather than Mary Claire? Thank you.
Go right ahead. Thank you, Heidi.
If that's what it needs to happen, Heidi, but Mary Claire does attend PCCEP meetings as well. Is that true, Mary Claire? Okay. I see what's happening.
No, sorry. No, I couldn't find my mute button. Yes, I attend meetings, but I'm going to leave this to Heidi, given the legal nature of this.
So the the training, I think that the mayor's press release, I'm trying to be really thoughtful about an investigation going on. So I hope that you'll understand that if we violate some of these due process rights, we cannot hold people accountable for their conduct. And we have issues with arbitrators overturning us if that occurs. So I hope you'll be patient with me on that piece of it. The slide, I think the mayor's press release disclosed though that the slide and that training was from 2018. So the COCL's review of the Q3 training, this did not occur during that period of time. So it's, you know, it's from years ago, just to say that that wouldn't be in their analysis of what training the Bureau gave in that Q3. You look frustrated with that, Zainab. Is there something more I can answer for you? I feel like that didn't answer your question well, or that didn't address it well. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Zainab, I see you've got something in the chat. So are you done for the moment? Because I don't want to cut you short. Okay. Let me go to Portland Cop Watch here. That's next with the hand up.
Thank you, Chair Carey. This is Dan Handelman. I use he, him pronouns. I'm with Portland Cop Watch. And I think what Patrick posted in the chat is aligned with what my question was going to be. Before I ask the question, I'm just going to point out, I downloaded the slideshow and checked the document properties on it in Adobe Acrobat. And it tells me that the slideshow was created April 5, 2020. So I don't know if it was held over between 2018 before it was created as a PowerPoint slideshow, and it was modified on January 14 of this year. So something was done to the original document before this was finalized. So I think that whoever's doing the forensic analysis of the slideshow itself needs to bear that in mind. I also want to say, this is background before I get to my question, that this was done when Chief Outlaw was in charge. There were a lot of street protests going on, especially clashes between neo-fascists and anti-fascists in the streets. And we pointed out to Chief Outlaw that we felt the Portland police were being biased against the anti-fascists, that they turned their backs on the neo-fascists who they know had arms because they wouldn't go into an area that prohibited guns coming in. And yet she didn't seem to see that that bias existed, but she took notes on what we said. All right, so my question is, again, along the lines of what Patrick raised in the chat, didn't the DOJ and the compliance officer have to review the training materials before they were finalized and presented? And therefore, how did this get missed, I guess?
Dan, I'll answer for the department. We were not provided these slides. So, you know, there are certain trainings we would expect to receive, and, you know, ones involving use of force or application of force policy are certainly what we would expect to see. And we did not see these until January, whatever, 14th, 15th. So we did not approve these.
Yeah, I can say the same for COCL. We did not see these slides. We were not asked to review them. We focused, you know, much of our work on the primary trainings that were the in-service for all police officers, the training for supervisors, the training for new recruits, the training for on mental health for ECIT officers, crisis intervention. These trainings were for these special units that were not given that much attention until after the protests. And, you know, so that was part of the, you know, that may have fallen in the cracks, but there's a lot of trainings, little trainings, you know, these groups like RRT do a lot of outside trainings. And so there's an issue there of who's, not only our review, but the review of the Bureau and what they actually do and who's watching that. So special units get various internal and external trainings. And
I want
believe
to quickly, Celeste, if you don't mind, I see Jasmine asked a question in the chat about the confidence of the quality of the oversight.
Okay.
And, you know, it's a good question, Jasmine. I appreciate it. I think it certainly deserves a close and a thorough response. What I'll say is that the quality of any oversight, whether it's the federal government, whether it's a contractor like the COCL team, or whether it's an independent monitor, it's only going to be as good as the documents that we receive and validate and revise and provide technical assistance on. I think that it could happen to any type of monitor. It could happen to a court. You know, documents are withheld in discovery all the time. And, you know, the question is, you know, confidence in the justice system. And, you know, there's certainly an expectation of fair play, I think. All lawyers take an oath to uphold the rules of professional responsibility, and you know, the justice system relies on that in part. And whether that's, you know, the federal government doing oversight in a case like this, or an independent monitor, or a court, or a collection of plaintiffs like OJRC is representing in the Don't Shoot case. All of it depends on some of that. So I like to think that the quality of the department's oversight is good and strong, but obviously, you know, this situation reveals that it can't be flawless to some extent. So it's a well put question, and I encourage other people to be thinking about it and asking it to those who they come in contact with. Thanks.
I haven't forgotten you, Dan. I do want to say also to that point, Jared and Jasmine, we are part of that network that helps bring accountability and high visibility to issues like that. And so we really want to encourage people to participate in this forum and to bring your concerns and your questions and your thoughts to us, so that as we're partnering with the DOJ and COCL in making sure that the settlement agreement is met, is empowered, is enacted, implemented, that, you know, we take your contribution seriously to helping us keep that dynamic moving. So yes, thank you, Jared, and thank you for the question. Dan, were you done before I go to Rochelle?
Oh yeah, I actually was about to type into the chat. I have to leave to go to this other meeting, but I appreciate the time.
All right.
I'll later. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Going to Rochelle Silver.
Yes, following up on some of the things that have just been discussed, I'd like to hear from Heidi or Sarah or somebody in the city attorney's office as to who's going to investigate them. Who's going to investigate the city attorney's office, those people in City Hall, the mayor, the upper echelon of the police bureau who knew about this since September. We would not know about it. The DOJ would not know about it. The court would not know about it. The taxpayers of Portland would not know about it if there hadn't been a lawsuit from Don't Shoot Portland. So I'm feeling like I don't want some random cop who stuck a slide into a presentation to be blamed for this whole thing, when it seems to be citywide deception. And I'd like to hear from Heidi and Sarah about this. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rochelle.
Rochelle, I'll go ahead and answer the question. I want to be respectful that Sarah is new to the city, and you're asking about who's going to hold the city attorney's office accountable, who's going to hold the mayor's office accountable, and who's going to hold the chief of police accountable. Certainly the Department of Justice can look into whether we violated the settlement agreement. And then beyond that, obviously for elected officials, all of us who are residents of Portland and community members in Portland vote. That's our way to hold our council accountable. And then you can certainly reach out to our council regarding my office and how we handle things, as well as the chief of police. If you feel like the chief of police hasn't handled things correctly, the chief of police is the one who investigates and has authority over the people who report to him. And then he being the person who's in that seat now, Chief Lavelle then reports to the mayor. So that's, if you certainly should raise these concerns. I encourage you to raise these concerns with the mayor's office and as a voter, and then as a, member of this community, to raise them in whatever avenues you feel are appropriate. And those are the avenues that are the layers of responsibility that I can think of in this moment.
Okay, is that all that you had to ask or offer, Rochelle?
That's fine, thank you.
All right, thank you. Let us move now to Patrick again. Patrick?
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to, I want to go back to the fact, and I know that there's a lot of people here that understand this, but I want to make sure that it's drummed home. It's not just one slide. The one slide is enough to be a major problem in and of itself. But the whole system, the system allowed this slide to be there. That means a whole bunch of people laughed at all of us. They laughed at us. That means a whole bunch of people looked at that slide and looked at all of the slides and said, it doesn't matter if they lie about what and change history. It doesn't matter if they laugh at us and say that, when we shoot I don't personally, but when we as a group shoot bottle rockets at them, it's lethal, but when they shoot less lethal rounds at us, it's okay. That means a whole bunch of people just knowingly and happily did that. And I think it's really important that we recognize that. It's a systemic problem. It's not, it goes beyond this slide. It goes beyond this PowerPoint. It's the whole system. And that means that somebody, whether it be Jared or Dennis or the names are escaping me, but somebody has to go through each and every slide in each and every PowerPoint, each and every PDF file and say, okay, did they screw this one up as well? Are they, this is something that you have to do with children. Sorry.
All right, thank you. Zainab, I got you up next, but what I would like if somebody could answer because I hear in what Patrick said, kind of an implied question. We've asked it, but I just want to throw it out there again. What is the vetting process for training materials? And I recognize that I may not have the best partners here to answer that question, but can somebody give us a brief rundown of what the vetting process is, so that when we're writing a response, we can write an informed one, and we can be factual in what we're stating. So is Mary Claire or anyone else able to answer that question?
I was going to try to answer some of that, Celeste, and then if Mary Claire can jump in, that would be great. So my understanding is that there are trainings that the training division puts together. And I believe the way that occurs is there are people who have experience in that area that they're training on, and that person provides, as a subject matter expert, provides input into how that training should look. And then the training team looks it over and reviews it. If it's historically, the way it's happened is that if it's an area that the DOJ has been monitoring, then that also is sent to the DOJ attorneys and the COCL for review and comment. And then there's some back and forth to try to address any concerns they might have. There are also a number of specialty units at the Bureau that in the past have, done trainings within their own specialty group. RRT would be one of them, to just call out the elephant in the room, but there's also—
And RRT is Rapid Response Team.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. And that's where that slideshow was. And then there are other ones like crisis, the crisis team, and other ones that do their specialty training. And I'm less familiar with the review process for those trainings, although under the PPB directives, I believe all trainings are supposed to go to the training division for review. So part of what we'll be looking at in an investigation is whether or not this particular slideshow presentation went through training for review. I don't know, Mary Claire, if there's anything more you can add that I might have missed.
No, I think you covered it, Heidi. We do have a Directive 1500 that gives the training captain the ultimate responsibility for approving training and lesson plans, and that is to include specialty units as well. But clearly, the training division does the major ones like in-service and supervisors. They do that through the training division, but the specialty units who have their own subject matter experts would be expected to at least provide their curriculum and lesson plans to the training division captain.
And then the only thing, if I could add, Celeste, is that the dean position, which is currently, in recruitment, that once that person, that community civilian person is filled in that position, they will, going forward, take on that responsibility. And I'm saying that in part in response to Patrick's posting about reviewing the training division and COCL and DOJ reviewing things.
All right, thank you for that, Heidi, and thank you for the questions. Thank you for those folks who have to leave for coming and sharing your concerns. And we're going to go now to Zainab, who is one of the PCCEP members. You have the floor.
Thank you. I wanted to put it in writing, so as Patrick says, I'll stay within my temperament. As stated by Jared, and thank you for that, the monitor is as good as the information received. But my questions are, how can the community trust be built with the City of Portland and Police Bureau for the community policing? How can PCCEP be an advisory component without the proper data, information, and coordination? Especially learning for the first time that these were slides for a don't shoot PDX case, and is why the additional slides within the deck was not the primary focus, but only the last slide. I attended a Portland Equity Advisory Council meeting on Tuesday. The Police Equity, that's wrong. Police Equity Advisory Council meeting on Tuesday this week, and nothing shared about this statement by Kat M. So thank you, Kat, whoever you are, Kat M. But the city has confirmed your statement and its accuracy. And then who led this communication strategy plan related to the releasing of the statement about the PowerPoint presentation? And then who is in the interim until the training director is hired? Thank you.
Excuse me. So even if nobody is here to answer those questions, these questions enter into our I guess I'll call it our task list as part of our response that we're going to make from PCCEP to the police, to the city. So if there's partners here who are able to respond, please do. But even if they don't, Zainab, know that this is going to be part of the response and what we'll be asking. But in the meantime, are there any partners who might be able to respond? And I do see your hand up, Gloria. Okay. If not, like I said, it's not a problem because we know you may not.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know that was a good precursor to my question. So no one can answer any part of my question. That's my concern right now.
Zainab,
yeah.
I'm trying to read them. I'm trying to read them because there's a lot of questions there. Let me start with question A. How can the community trust be built with the City of Portland and Police Bureau for community policing? That is a big question, and it's something that we're all working on. I get that this slide deck and the presentation broke down community trust. And the best I can say is that we'll investigate it. At the end, we'll look at if the community interest, if the interest in the public outweighs the, an employee's interest in not being publicly shamed, which is the balance we have to do under the public records law. And then we'll look at disclosing that investigation. And I just can't prejudge that because again, that would create due process issues in the investigation. But I recognize, and I think the city recognized there's very high community interest and public interest in this issue. So I don't have the answer to how trust can be built. All I can do is come and try to answer questions and try to do the best I can because I am, and I'm one person at the city, but I know there's a lot of people at the city who do value community trust, and we are working to try to build that. And this was a big step backwards. I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything. This was a horrible, atrocious slide. And we've got to rebuild trust around that. And so we will work on that. How can PCCEP be an advisory component without the proper data, information, and coordination? One of the challenges is when something's under investigation, that's a challenge to disclosing it. However, I do also understand that this presentation was provided in 2018. So if it's a presentation, the fact of the presentation could have been disclosed, and that is something we need to address for you. And I can't answer that today, but I hear your concern about that. I'm not learning for the first time that these were slides for a Don't Shoot Portland case is why the additional slides within the deck was not the primary focus, but only the last slide. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'm not. What?
That's not the question. That was part of a statement. That's why I put it broken up by A, B, C, so it'd be easier. I thought I would just put that out there.
Thank you. Sorry. And then who led the communication strategy plan related to releasing the statement about the PowerPoint presentation? The mayor's office, worked in conjunction with our office on what to say on the press release and the communication strategy. We're there advising on legal issues and the investigation and what can and can't be said about that. And then who is the interim until the training director is hired? So the new training director is a new position. So historically, there is a captain of training and that person is in charge of the training division. So right now that's Captain Chris Jovic, and he remains in that position. So that has not changed. He was placed in that position, I don't know, within the last couple of months. So he wasn't in that position in 2018. He's more recent to that position. Just so you know that he wasn't the one there in 2018. I don't know, I don't address staffing at PPB, but my guess would be he'll remain in that position. And then when the education director comes in, then the captain's duties will be more on the administrative side of things. And then the educational piece will be under the education director.
Thank you, Heidi. I guess last thing, Celeste, because of your sharing that your mayor's office worked with the city attorneys for communication strategy. And I just want to know, why was this released during the weekend of the Dr. King Memorial? It could have been released weeks before, prior to that. It could have been released weeks later. Why that specific weekend? From September up until that point, did this team decide to release it that weekend?
I think the mayor knew that there was discussion about that this was going to be released to DOJ at the end of the month when the city responded to the entire information request that's outstanding now. That being said, when the Don't Shoot Portland advised that they were intending to file a motion for class action and include a number of documents, including this slide, the mayor's office determined that it would be important to get this out to the community with his statement to let you know what was going on as far as there was an investigation. And the timing of that they intended to file on Friday, January 14th. And so that, in answer to your question as to why it happened, when it happened, that's why it happened when it happened. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that's why.
Zainab, I wanted to jump in on your question B, because how PCCEP can be successful or a functioning advisory body is a concern for the Department of Justice. I mean, this body is a part of our remedies for community engagement. And I think my response would be that I think PCCEP has the information to be an effective advisory body. You have lots of information on all sorts of different things. Now, on this specific thing, you did not have the information, but what you do have is all of the information since that it was had, in 2018, maybe the training was given. In 2021, it was discovered. In January, it was released. That is essential information, I think, for this body to make advisory recommendations on accountability, on remedy, on how to fix it, to try to answer your own very good question about how can a city rebuild trust or a police bureau rebuild trust in the wake of this mistake, and so to me, you have some of that essential data. What you do with it, I think is difficult. I mean, though, that is a tough call on how to fix this problem, and it shouldn't happen. And, I don't think it'll happen again. I hope not. And, to the extent there are ways to repair, I would like to hear this committee's ideas for it. I think the department is interested in how to remedy this issue as well, because this is an issue where, we didn't have the information when we thought we should have had it. So it's a question. I welcome your collaboration on figuring out an answer. But that's my input.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Zainab. I do want to, there was a point in here that I wanted to make. Okay, this is one thing I do want to say. We're asking some hard questions. We're asking the necessary questions. And I want to thank you all for not only doing the hard questions, but I want to thank my partners for answering them. But as we move forward, let us all be mindful that the questions are probably, and the responses are going to get harder and more pointed. And so I just want to commend you all for asking and being respectful and being polite, but just know that they're going to get a little harder. When we answer these questions, when we ask these questions, this is the kind of dynamic that helps rebuild trust, And if you don't know, don't be afraid to tell us you don't know. We will work forward and push forward on this. But I just want to say, just to be perfectly honest and, open disclosure, it's going to get a little tough, and we just need to push through. And thank you all for asking and for working with each other. Time check, it is 7:11. We may, Claudia, have to kind of amend this, putting together the final touches for the next agenda, as well as we may have to postpone old business, new business. I do feel that we have enough information to warrant another meeting. So I'm going to put it together. Claudia and I will release when we're going to do this meeting. And I'm going to try to use the next few minutes up until 7:25 to entertain any more questions or concerns. So if you don't get a chance to talk, please contact Claudia or Judith or myself so that we can get your input as we're working to shape our response. Okay, everyone? So let me go to Gloria right now. Thanks for holding, Gloria.
Thanks, Celeste. I just wanted to say that, you know, those slides attacked religion, race, gender, and a lot of other issues that we're struggling with right now. And I'm just, it amazes me that not one Portland Police Bureau officer spoke out, not one complained to someone about this training, not one said anything. That is why I am really glad that we're all working here together, because hopefully when we discover what truly happened with this training and who was responsible for it, we can work together to remove those obstacles.
You know, I'm thinking of the flip side of this, and I'm wondering, we don't need to know who it was, but I'm wondering, were there any officers who spoke up and
that's it.
We're just not hearing about it.
That's it, because I know, just like I was offended, pretty sure there were others who were offended who work right within the Bureau. Now, I don't expect them to jump out and say, you know, I was offended, but I'm sure they told someone that it was offensive. I just cannot believe the whole team. No one said anything. It can't be that deeply rooted in the Portland Police Bureau that they just don't see what's happening.
Well, I think that's a valid point for us to bring out. And that's, again, one of those hard questions I think we should feel comfortable asking, because it goes to us rebuilding trust with the police, and then also understanding what are their attitudes toward actually upholding the elements of the settlement agreement. That's a hard question. It is a fair question, and we're going to ask for the answers. And we're going to ask for the answers from the people, both in the training review group, the people who actually designed the training, and of course from our leadership. So thank you for bringing that up, Gloria. And let's see, got a little time. Let me move. Were you done, Gloria, before I move to CAC? Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move to CAC. Had you have the floor?
Hi, thanks. So, you know, the major question about how do we get trust between the community and the police? Well, the police have been asking for that for how long? But when you look back at the history of Portland police, or just police in any city, you realize that trust has been broken for decades, if not for hundreds of years. You know, so it's like, this is not an isolated incident. And that's the one thing I think we need to be very mindful of. Even we can go back to smoke 'em, don't choke 'em. We can go back to, I don't know, Quaney's Hayes. We can go back wherever you want. We can go back to July 2021 when Willamette Week posted an article about how the PPB training sessions were being mocked, that officers weren't paying attention on Zoom, they didn't care. We can talk about rapid response resigning in droves as a political gesture. We can talk about the fact there's been no audit since 2018 of PPB's training. We can talk about the chief advisory groups not releasing agendas or minutes to the public. We can talk about, I don't know, Sergeant Leland Klauser, who was getting payments for overtime shifts through Venmo. We can talk about the fact that use of force against people in mental health crisis during 2020 actually have increased. I think that's in the COCO reports. I mean, it's not us necessarily. If we don't trust this law enforcement body, there's a reason. And then with the DOJ settlement, we're trusting the DOJ and we're trusting COCO to try and hold these bodies accountable, but they're not even getting information. So how can they do what they need to do? And my question has always been, look, we know that there's systemic racism in the police department. We can look back at the history, we can go all the way back. How come there's no method to fire the officers who are responsible for promoting, endorsing, or engaging in racist actions or sexist actions or any actions that harm the community and break the trust? And that's something I've never seen. It talks about more training, like apparently we have LAPD's training director, Luann Pennell, coming here to talk about stuff. Okay, LAPD is not doing well right now. Let's get real. Do we really want to take advice from that person just because they've been lifted up and toted around the United States as the lead therapist training person? I don't think so. But the question is how come the PPA has so much power, and then community groups like PCCEP and community groups like Don't Shoot Portland and all these other groups that have been around for so long constantly just get trampled? Like, we are out here fighting and saying, listen to us. And then PPA is like, this is our contract and nobody's getting fired. And in fact, you're getting rehired and here's a bonus. That's not going to build trust. You can say you're going to stop traffic stop, do lessen traffic stops because they've been racially unequal. But guess what? They're still unequal, even when you slow them down. It doesn't work. And let's talk about the stuff that's gone on with Joanne Hardesty. That is not okay. There's a lot of problems. And the question is, why hasn't anyone been fired? That's how you build trust. You get rid of the quote unquote bad apples.
You are asking the hard question. And this is something that I want us to ponder. What gives strength to the officers in not removing problematic officers is the union. Here is the challenge though. We as working class people, we look to unions to level the playing field, to give us support, to keep us able to participate. But we need to ask another hard question. We need to ask police unions to step out of the protective guise that unions have and to own the fact that they are not being honest with the people they're supposed to protect and serve. Unions' benevolent reputation is being co-opted. And that's a hard question. When we stop and we think about why are officers not being removed, when we have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that they've engaged in some problematic or even illegal behavior, it falls under the protective relationship of the union. So when we want to question city council about why things are happening, we also need to turn to the unions. And this is especially important for the community to raise its voice so that when we have platforms like PCCEP or other oversight groups, they will take those concerns up to the next level. That's one of the things, at least in my interpretation, we're supposed to be doing. And I see some of the comments. This is something that we will have to bring forward as part of our recommendations, perhaps. So, this is the kind of thing that, again, on this platform where we're making the hard statements, we're asking the hard questions, you bring these up and then we ask the people accountable for the answers. And maybe that's one thing we need to do. Maybe we need to see what we can do to get members of the police union before us. We can ask our partners to do their part, but some of this is the purview of the union. So, I'm gonna say it because it is the hard statement. It is the hard question and it is the elephant in the room. So Let me shut up. I got Amy and Zakir and Barb, and this is going to run us over time. But how, staff, how are you right now? If we run, say, maybe 15 minutes over time, I want to be respectful of my partners and my colleagues' time, but I also know that we're here to hear the community. So if we can limit it and get through in no less than maybe 7:40, that'll be maybe time.
Yeah, I'm okay staying.
Yeah, me too. I'm okay staying.
Okay. So, you know, if you can put your concerns in the chat, we will have the chat transcript as well. But let me try to go to Amy and then Zakir.
Wow. Okay. What I wanted to mention is that one of my questions is the Training Advisory Council, and are they reviewing materials before they go out? I don't quite know the process. I'd like to know a little more about what they do.
We did ask that earlier, so it was stated. I think it was Heidi and Mary Claire that answered a little bit about that.
Okay. Somehow, yeah, I didn't catch it. The other thing is that I want everyone to remember that we also have state statute of arbitration laws. So as far as my understanding goes, until we reconcile the state statute on arbitration rules, there isn't anything we could do locally about the police officer hire-fire business. So I really think it's important to remember most everything we need to change has to go to the state of Oregon legislators. So maybe we need to bring some of them to the meetings so they can learn about how important it is for us to have more power to hire and fire people. I can't say that enough. Arbitration is Oregon's way of reversing decisions, and we can't interfere with that. So, and the other thing I also want to mention is what Dan from CopWatch said is my work in the computer industry and in this community, I know for a fact people love to copy and paste from each other. They borrow, they copy, they paste, and they don't ever bother reviewing what was added. So probably I'm going to venture to say these files were added because number one, I don't think everyone's paying attention. And number two, copying and pasting into a PowerPoint presentation is easy. It's not that difficult. So I just want everyone to keep in mind that the computer world, it's really easy to hack a PowerPoint. Okay, just keep that in mind. So let's not be too hard on things until we learn how it was entered and by whom. So I'm willing to wait it out, but that's just my take on computer land, is if we stop copying and pasting from each other, we might stop some of this stuff that comes and goes without people knowing about it. So I just want to put that out there. Thank you.
Celeste, if I could, Amy, I posted in the chat a link to a new law that came out last year that addresses arbitration. And we're under the old law until we bargain a new collective bargaining agreement. But I did want you all to know that that does change the arbitrator authority in reviewing the misconduct or disciplinary decisions. So there were some limits put on it.
All right, thank you, Heidi. Trying to check the chat really quickly, make sure I'm not missing. Well, you know, Patrick brought up a point that was in the back of my mind, which is perhaps this is an attempt to smear the police. It could be, it may be not. It may be just them doing what they do. I don't know. But I will say this, that's the, you know, one of the questions that we hope will be asked, or we can bring it forward too from this meeting. You know, I expect that the investigation is going to try to look at this from as many sides possible, but we also have this opportunity to bring forward just what you said, to ask that question. Let's see, there was one more hand up.
Zakir and then Barb.
Thank you, Celeste. So I have a comment and then a question. I just want to read from that new arbitration statute that Heidi was kind enough to put into the chat. This deals with termination. So this is subpoint C on page 1, where it says, when the imposed disciplinary action is termination of employment, an arbitrator may not set aside or reduce the imposed disciplinary action if setting aside or reducing the disciplinary action is inconsistent with the public interest in maintaining community trust, enforcing a higher standard of conduct for law enforcement officers, and ensuring an accountable, fair, and just disciplinary process. This is a major departure from before. With all that being said, I really would like to ask this question of the people who are working for the city of Portland and the city attorney's office, but let me preface it. When I was in graduate school, I took a leadership and communication course, and we had this 4-star general named General Wyman come in and talk to us about his rules for leadership. And I have always carried these 10 rules with me wherever I went. And the number one rule that he had that always sticks with me is do the right thing. Do the right thing. And so I'm just wondering if maybe someone from the city can maybe talk about this. I'll ask a specific question in just a second, but I have never seen an entire city collude to do the wrong thing at the levels in which Portland is operating. Like, where were the whistleblowers when it came to the Proud Boys slide? There was countless officers who must have viewed that training and nobody spoke out. Where were the public safety advisors for the mayor who probably saw these materials and said nothing? Where was the mayor's office? Where were countless levels of organizational bureaucracy? Where were city attorneys during all of this entire misconduct? And so I think it's completely reasonable for an entire city to be frustrated at this point, because there is a multitude of people who simply do not want to do the right thing. So if we could maybe get an ETA, if possible, or an actual project management plan as to when people can actually see a city choose to do the right thing, it would allay a lot of concerns that so many people have. And I know that people certainly have the potential to do the right thing, because many of you went to law school and you did learn how to do the right thing there, just like I did. But a lot of people, I think, have forgot how to do that. And I just want to remind you that that is still important to a lot of people. So ETA would be really helpful, or if there's conscientiousness about doing the right thing, that would also be helpful.
Zakir, thank you for your comments. You know, I think that I can't answer for the entire city, of course. I can say for myself that I've been in public service. I started out as a public defender. I was a union side attorney representing teachers for years. And then I came to the city of Portland. I came to the city of Portland because I thought, and I still believe, that people want to do the right thing, want to be a good city, and that this council and the people at the city work hard to do a good job. And do we fail at times? Yes, we do. Yeah. But I can say that I know a lot of people who work for the city that are trying their hardest to do a good job. So I agree with you. People should do the right thing. On the ETA, you know, I assume you're asking when the investigation will be completed. You know, it goes through a whole process, and I don't know exactly how much longer that will take. But it has been ongoing since, you know, the end of September, as I said. And so, you know, 180 days will be up within a couple months, and hopefully we'll get it done soon. I know there's a high public interest in this.
And Zakir, I just wanted to add something, you know, from the perspective of, you know, being, you know, working in a case. for the United States as a lawyer, I really appreciate what Heidi just said, that, you know, governmental body is made up of a lot of individuals who have varying degrees of conscientiousness, and sometimes they get lumped together. I've been working with Heidi for more than a year, 2 years now, and I do trust her. I know she's a good person and wants to do the right thing. And I say that knowing how difficult it can be to be essentialized with your employer, and that can be very, very difficult. At the same time, what you're saying is also well put. You know, we had issues in 2016 with a former mayor and a chief of police who got into a incident shooting a friend, and we thought there was a cover up. So this is not the first time where we've had a trust dashed, I think, with the highest levels of city government. And I think, you know, from my perspective, it just, you know, takes making the next right decision, you know, and that's the surest way, I think, to rebuild trust.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Sakir, for asking a hard question. Thank you, Heidi and Jared, for your unflinching honesty, you know. Again, we have to ask them. We have to create a comfort zone so people can ask the questions, and we're going to work hard to keep people engaged. I do see concern about not having continued publicity or media coverage on this, but in lieu of that, we have this subcommittee as a venue, and the statements we make, the meetings we have here will not only bear witness, but we can, you know, we can refer people to this to keep the pressure up and to keep it before the people. So let's use these tools. Let's see, it's 7:33. I noticed your hand went down, Barb. But I do want to check in and make sure you don't have any questions, and then kind of do a little wrap up here. Let's see. Please add to the PCCEP agenda every month until the invest. There you go. That's one way to do it. Thank you, Zanette. And even though I do want to say this, one of my overarching goals, and it's not the only thing I wanted to work on, but one of my overarching goals for the Racial Equity Subcommittee was to have everybody learn all of the elements toward collecting stops data so that you would be very familiar with how the police do it, why they do it, other jurisdictions that enter into determining data points, such as the Department of Justice or the state. If there are ways of adjusting data points, how we do that. For example, we found out one way was that you have to actually go through the Oregon legislature. But as it's necessary, this is a venue that can be used to address it, because even though this was not just a racialized issue, it still has a direct bearing on how we are able to work with the police to deal with racialized issues. So I do want to let you know that this is not going to be a one and done, okay? And that in other venues within PCCEP where this is appropriate, they will be dealing with it as well. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. Do any of my PCCEP colleagues have anything they want to add before we close? Go right ahead, Zainab.
Yeah, thank you, Celeste, and thank you for this meeting. I actually did try to prepare for the agenda, which was the stops data collection.
Thank you.
So
I appreciate that.
I read the second quarter report 2021, and I also saw the third quarter report 2021. So just letting you know that that has been updated. So I know on the agenda it was the second quarter report, but the third quarter report is on there. And I also saw on this page is Ted Wheeler and Chuck Lavell's name. So I only imagine that they are also responsible for reviewing these reports and this data. And so hopefully at your next meeting, which is when?
Well, we're hoping to have another meeting in 2 weeks. but that meeting may be dedicated to finishing our response regarding these slides.
Okay. And
so if push comes to shove, it might be in February, but I can adjust it. Yeah.
So just so you are aware, I noticed some differences in how it's reporting, and as if I really don't know what PCCEP and what the subcommittee is able to do related to the data. But it's one of my questions is how accurate is this data before we go any further? That's really what I want to ask, because I saw some discrepancies in the data reported from last quarter to this quarter, and wondering why was the rate of the, especially related to the racial equity piece of it, why was it still higher for those of color?
Right.
Even though
let me jump in here. Let me jump in here really quick, because you're bringing up good points. One of the things, I have a partner who's helping me bring people from either data or other aspects of the police effort in this to speak to it. And Lauren Brown, who I believe might be the supervisor for data, might also be a resource. So I will reach out to them so that we can talk about the discrepancies. So follow up with me. We'll talk both by phone and email and nail this down for when we can address it. That's not going to get lost. It's 7:37. If there are no more questions from the public, and if our partners have nothing more to say, I want to do a wrap up. But partners, anybody, anything they want to add? Okay.
Celeste, I know these were hard questions, and I hope that my answers at least help some. But I'm here, and I will continue to be here to work with all of you. So thank you for coming, and I appreciate not easy questions, but that's not what I'm here for, is to answer easy questions. So
no, we're here, and we thank you for being there. We're here to try to untie this knot. And I'm saying it that way because that sounds like a nice, benign, and not frightening way. I thank all of my partners. I thank all of my colleagues. And I really appreciate the public for coming and asking those questions. Keep engaged. Don't just come when it's a hot button item you like, because when you stay engaged, you give us consistency of approach, and that helps give us integrity, and it gives us more gravitas to what we're doing. So thank you all. And with that, then I want to save the chat, and we will be putting together the agenda for our meeting 2 weeks from now. Let me check that out. That is, it looks like the 3rd of February. So that's going to be our tentative date. If something goes awry, I will not deviate. I will not hold it any later than the next week. Okay, so I'm just telling you this just in case something goes sideways. But again, thank you all for attending. I really appreciate this effort, and I appreciate you all. Take care.
Thanks, Celeste.
Thank you.